I'm convinced that
Okay, guys.
that controls your ability to rollerblade.
Here's part 2.
I do not have it because I've run out of explanations. Add your voice prompt on in.
Story time on how I was kidnapped by my insane dad. Okay, so boom. This all began at the time when I was 8 years old. So my teacher was off for whatever reason, so we had a substitute teacher. The substitute teacher ended up being my dad, but I didn't know he was my dad at the time. But I always had a bad feeling when I was by him. One day after class, my dad asked me to stay to talk to him. But because I always had a bad feeling about him, I just made up an excuse and told him that I couldn't stay after class. And even when I gave him that excuse, he told me just give him a second, but again, he was weird. Anyways, the next day at school, we had free time, and the whole time, he was staring at me. It was actually almost my birthday, and I was passing out invitations to my classmates. Well, somehow he got a hold of one of my invitations. My birthday went by, and everything was fine until the next day. It was Sunday, and my mom was at work, and I was babysitting my 2 little sisters. And this is where it gets scary. Okay, so boom, like I said, it was Sunday and my mom was at work and I was babysitting my 2 little sisters. When I went to go get my sisters a snack, I heard something. I got scared and I immediately called my mom on our emergency phone. She looked at the cameras and there was nothing there, but I kept on hearing something. So I took my mom's old flip phone and I grabbed my 2 little sisters. I brought them to my room in our secret crawl place and I gave my older little sister the flip phone. I told my little sister to stay there and to not come out until I come back, and that if I didn't come back, to call the police and stay hidden until the police came. I grabbed my bat and went downstairs, and guess who it was? My insane dad. So that's when he told me that he was my dad and that he had proof. So I went with him to get him away from my little sisters, and that's when he threw me into his truck. I texted my sister the signal before he took my phone. Like for part 3. Okay, so boom, like I said, my dad threw me into his truck. I was able to text my little sister to signal for help before he took my phone. About 20 minutes later, he stopped at a hotel. He again told me that I was his, and that's why he would stare at me so much, because he had to make sure. And then he said he had to make sure that I was his sacrifice, but I didn't understand what he was talking about. He was being very creepy. I ended up staying there with him for 6 days, but thank God on the 6th day, the police was finally able to track me down. They were finally able to locate me and find me, and thank God they did. I ran to my mom, cried, told her I loved her, but I also told her that I did it to keep my sisters safe. Now he's in jail for 10 years, and he can't come within 100 feet of me or my family. My family moved to Florida with my stepdad, and now I'm expecting my little brother. Trust your instincts.
This is the reason why I hate boats, and I'll never go on a boat again. So one day for my mom's birthday, she really wanted to go dolphin watching. And you know, I was pretty excited because I'd never been on a boat before. And if you live in Jersey, any time that you go to the shore, it's gonna be colder than if you weren't at the shore because of like the bodies of water. Or like, honestly, I don't know. It's like just science, stealth science. I don't know. So I was thinking about like, oh, it's probably gonna be cold because we're gonna be like in the middle of the ocean. So let me put on some jeans and a thick t-shirt. And you know what? It would have taken me 2 seconds.
I'll make a Catch Your Life version.
Click on the weather app and see what the temperature was outside. It was 99 degrees that day. But here's the kicker. That was 115. So when we get to the boat, there's a bottom level with shade and then a top level that's just like open. So, you know, the sun just directly hitting you. And where does my family want to go? Of course, to the top part of the boat. So I was really hot, obviously. One second I'm talking to my mom. The next second I'm lying on this bench with my mom pouring a water bottle on my chest. How my brother almost beat up some 5th graders. I spent the day out at my family's ranch, and I brought my boyfriend, Jerry, out to see it. Story, it was built in like the 1920s, and then rebuilt in the early 2000s, and now it's under construction again. So we decided to drive home. We're coming back. I'm feeling tired.
Time to make hair go. No, I'm actually gonna make this in Gotcha Club. Yeah. Sorry. I'm eating a chocolate lollipop.
More milk? Or less moolah? Real cow?
it's under construction again. So we decided to drive home. We're coming back, I'm feeling tired, and I'm also kind of blind. So my brother decides to take over driving.
Nah, it was really because your driving sucks.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyways, we get close to the neighborhood and we start to pull up. We're going down the street next to our house. The car hits a big thud. And I literally thought my brother had just like hit someone on their bike or something.
Yeah, I thought I gained 20 points for hitting someone.
But then we saw a bunch of people hiding start to run back to their house. And I knew that they had thrown something at our car. My brother literally turns to my boyfriend and goes, "Hey, do you know how to fight?"
Well, my defense training seems too nice.
Jeremy said yes, and then they whipped the car into the driveway. Like for part 2. Storytime part 2 about my brother almost beating up some 5th graders. They pull into the driveway and then hop out of the car ready to fight and started running after who we thought were high schoolers. I went to go look at the damage on my car and it was just really wet. It kind of looked like my car had been egged. Other cars started to pull up too, and they were like, "Hey, my car was just hit." They were looking to talk to the people's parents, and I was like, "Yeah, us too." We rang the doorbell. No one was home, but the door literally just swung open. So my brother and my boyfriend were yelling upstairs. No one's outside waiting. I call the non-emergency police, and my brother calls another friend as backup. So his friend told his work that he had a family emergency and left. Sometime during this, the kids came back downstairs and locked their front door. So I knocked on it and was like, "Hey, you guys should just apologize," because the police were kind of already on their way. And that's when they opened the door and we saw how tiny they were. Literally 5th graders. I honestly felt kind of bad, but it probably scared them into not doing this to anyone else. My brother's friend pulled up and he had obviously gone out of work for no reason.
I was just seeing if he was gonna be true or not.
I think we ended up paying him $35.
One day, I made this online friend on a random video chat room. We're gonna call her Jalissa.
You know what?
Jalissa and I ended up exchanging numbers because
No,
in
we're
this
just gonna
video
keep
chat
going back
room,
to texting
you can
story.
Call whenever you want or text whenever you want. So this was a bad decision, but so she ends up FaceTiming. I answered and she started showing me a wall. The wall had pictures of different people. So my picture there too. I asked Jalissa what the purpose of this wall was. She basically said she saves pictures of everyone she meets in this video chat room and practices evil magic on them. This is the best part! So now when I want to make friends who won't save my picture on the wall.
This is a story of the time that me and my childhood best friend almost got kidnapped. Just a warning, this could be triggering. I was around 10 years old and my neighbor down the street was about 7. All I remember is that it was getting dark outside and my parents told me that I should walk her home. It was about a 3-minute walk. So we're walking out of my house and down the street a little bit and we see a car pull up to us. It was a regular sedan and it had tinted windows. I was a very paranoid kid, so I told my friend to turn around. The car continued to follow us walk back to my house, and a man pulled down his window and asked us if we needed a ride to where we were going. I immediately screamed and told my friend to run back to my house. So we ran back inside, told my parents, and my parents thought nothing of it. Mind you, I live in a pretty safe area, so I could see why my parents weren't that worried. I was also a very dramatic kid, but this wasn't me being dramatic. So we go back outside and we see that the car was pulled up another person's driveway, so we thought we were okay. I still told my friend to run. The car lights turned on and go down the driveway and tried to chase us, but we got
Bye.
So, like,
Bye.
what do